you should never lower your standards for anyone else. If you're used to a certain lifestyle, you should keep that lifestyle up and not lower it. Hi, welcome back to our podcast. I'm Leah Mayersohn.
And I'm Denise Isaacs.
And we're both divorce lawyers. And we're here to talk to you today to spill the tea so that you can avoid legal drama and avoid being clients in our office.
And we want to make sure that we counsel you pre-divorce, pre-marriage, premarital agreements. We want to make sure that your marriage is going to be a road to success and last forever.
So today we're going to talk about a topic that makes a lot of people uncomfortable, and that's when the women make much more money than the men. So if the woman is the breadwinner, it causes all sorts of problems in the relationship. Now, tell me a little bit about what's going on with you lately.
This issue is one that comes up more and more lately. In past years or past decades, it rarely came up, but now there are a number of house husbands who take care of the children. There are a lot of husbands who cater to their wives and travel with their wives when their wives are traveling because the wives have the better position.
But I see a lot of situations where the couple starts off, the man might have had the higher paying job, they might both be professionals, and then something changes over time. And a lot of times when that changes, the men become very uncomfortable and act out.
They become passive. They become passive aggressive, put themselves away, they do their own thing, and then all of a sudden, that's when there is no us anymore, they're not having relations anymore, and there's a great deal of resentment. When it's the woman who is earning less, that leaves a very happy marriage. When it is the man who is earning less, it leads to problems in the relationship, and the woman has to walk on eggshells just to make sure that her husband is okay with whatever is going on. And allow him to make certain decisions if it's possible.
And, I see the men becoming very entitled during these kinds of situations. And a lot of times when they're able-bodied, over the years, I've had cases where, like, one person's one type of profession, such as a lawyer, a doctor, and the other one's another type of a professional, such as a lawyer, doctor.
They give it up and they just sit around.
They sit around. They go out drinking with their friends during the day. That's when they find the new girlfriends. They wreak havoc by charging up a lot on the credit cards. They're not really taking care of the kids. So sometimes the women who are the breadwinners, they go to work, they earn the money, then they're coming back and being relegated to dealing with the household, dealing with the kids, making sure things are taken care of. And you end up having this entitled man-child that's living with you and acting out, like you said, passively aggressively.
And the revenge spending and the revenge keeping out of the house, coming back late, those are indicia of adultery. They are. They're indicia of adultery, and they're also designed to get a reaction.
Well, I see a lot of these situations with the female breadwinners where by the time they're ready to get divorced, the men are now fighting for every single drop of alimony they can get, and they want support the rest of their lives, even if they're fully capable. And they're much worse than the wives who are going after alimony.
I disagree. I don't think they're much worse. I think the entitlement is there, and the entitlement of women who want alimony is equal to the entitlement of men who want alimony. Do for me, buy for me, that's what they want.
And I think the fundamental problem is that societal norms have changed over the years. And there's still a lot of men who are programmed to think that they should have been the breadwinners. And that's where they get the chip on their shoulder about their wives being the breadwinners. And either they've just given up in life, or they were never capable of what their wife was capable of, or, they just like the free ride, right, and it causes problems.
Right, and they're overly sensitive. They're just overly sensitive to every decision that has to be made that they're, quote, cut out from, or that they are not getting the respect that it, the outside respect from the world that their wife is. And this leads to adultery. It leads to a great deal of emotional difficulties in the marriage. And women tend to just give in and try to make it work. I've seen that. Men who are the breadwinners, who are the major contributors to the family, they won't put up with what women will put up with just in order to stay in the marriage.
Now, do you see the money power shift in relationships in these situations?
I want you to know that in situations where the wife is the breadwinner, there is far less control, far, far less control, and they both spend the money and they both make decisions. But that's not the case with the male breadwinner. The husband who is the breadwinner is going to be the one who makes the choices, and the wife seemingly is happy to go along with them until the divorce. And that's when the entitlement comes in. I still want to keep my Jaguar. I want to make sure that I keep that BMW. I want a new one every year, just like we've been doing throughout our 30-year marriage.
So that you need to have a fix. Now, if you're the higher powered earner, you need to make sure that you protect yourself. You need to protect yourself from financial and from legal risks. You have to get a prenup. Or if during the course of your marriage you start out earning your husband, you need to get a postnup. And that way it will help protect you if you end up in one of these situations if you don't want to get out of it.
But it is so hard. The prenup is so much easier. It is so much easier to get a prenup than a postnup, because the person who is the have-not or the person who is earning less in the beginning is more than willing to go along with a prenup. But after they have been entitled and been being supported in a style they haven't been accustomed to, then what they're trying to do is not agree to the postnup and ask for much more. So it's better to get a prenup than a postnup.
Now, you need to look for some red flags in your relationships. Does the guy that you're dating really support your success, or is he looking for a free ride? I think that's the number one red flag that you have to look for to start off with.
That's very interesting. That's very interesting. I agree.
And
I
you want to assess whether you have a financial freeloader or a true partner. And you have to think about, how do you tell the difference between the two people? And some men will go ahead and sabotage high earning women. And they do this both emotionally or financially to kind of act out for their own insecurity.
Are we talking about husbands? You're already married to the husband, or we're talking about prior?
Both significant others, whether it's a boyfriend, a partner, or during marriage. It's really a huge problem where men will go ahead and start sabotaging things.
So let's talk about the sabotage and the red flag prior to getting married. How are the dates going to be divided up? Who's going to pay for the vacation? Who's going to decide whether or not you're going to stay in a 5-star hotel or you're going to go to a hostel? You just need to be making these decisions, and it is fraught with anxiety.
But you should never lower your standards for anyone else. If you're used to a certain lifestyle, you should keep that lifestyle up and not lower it just because your partner isn't able to keep up with you.
And so then the partner who is the higher earner is going to be taking over a lot of the expenses. But then where's the fairness? Because what you have to do is each party needs to have some self-respect. So maybe proportionally, if one is making 60%, the other one is making 40%, or one is making 70%, the other one's making 30%, they proportionately pay the expenses. I think that is a way of putting fairness into the expenses.
Yes. So one of the red flags is, does he really support your success or does he resent it? What do you think about this, Denise?
I think that this red flag shows up very early in the relationship. Is this person going to come with you and enjoy all of the prestige, whether it's any kind of a promotion, anything, going on vacations, going to conventions? is this person supporting you? And when they're there, are they supporting you and saying nice things about you, or are they just hanging around? Like if they go to a Las Vegas show, they're going to a convention there. Are they going to be out gambling, going to different shows while you're there taking care of business, entertaining people? Are they going to participate? Are they going to build you up instead of tearing you down?
Well, that's how you can tell the difference between a financial freeloader and a true partner. If someone truly wants to be with you, they're going to be by your side and support you and help you advance your career instead of freeloading off of you and going out partying, as you said, at a Las Vegas convention. And why do you think some men sabotage, either emotionally or financially, their higher earning partners?
Because they can't live with themselves if they're not the top dog. They feel that if they're not earning the money, they're not culturally the men. And so they don't get self-esteem from a wife, although they're getting the financial benefits. Their self-esteem isn't tied to their wife and or their girlfriend, and that's very difficult.
And as far as the financial freeloaders, I have an increasing amount of friends who tell me that on the dating apps, they have much younger men constantly targeting them because they want to be financial freeloaders. Have you been seeing this in your practice?
Only from the other side, only the women who go after my very successful clients.
I've seen it somewhat in my practice over the years, but I think it's become an increasing problem. I've also seen a lot of situations where the parties started off where the man was earning more. All of a sudden, the roles were reversed. The woman was earning more, and the man couldn't handle it and just broke down.
I have lots of divorces like that where one person, in this case, it is the wife, was seeking promotions, getting further degrees, moving up the echelons and moving up in the corporate ladder while the other person was just floundering. And maybe that's how they were from the beginning. So they started off at a lower level, and then one of them just kept climbing and climbing and climbing, and the other one just sees themselves as a failure. And we still are living in a culture where men are perceived to be the provider and the person who earns more. And when they don't, other people, when you go to dinner with a lot of couples, there is going to be discrimination against the husband who is the lower earner.
I think that can be probably very challenging for them.
Very.
Because if they're relegated to talking to the other spouse and they have nothing to contribute to the conversation, it's going to be a lot more difficult than if they're a high-powered individual and they're on the same level. But I've seen it from the other side, where you go out and you're relegated to talking to the wife of someone instead of the real decision maker. And it's always awkward because if you're a successful business person, what do you necessarily have in common with someone's spouse who's a stay-at-home mom versus talking to the person, and the dynamics can be unusual.
There's cultural aspects of it, the masculinity that they have to be the decision maker, that they have to be the money maker. It has been changing, and there are a lot of men who are very, very supportive. I think that one area that is the artistic area, that someone who is an artist, someone who is a singer and hasn't made it but is with a successful wife, a successful girlfriend, has their own sphere of success. And so if in their world, their success, it helps the marriage.
The other dynamic that I've seen is if one spouse has success in a different area, like more of a blue collar area, even if they're not as financially successful as the wife in a profession or in a business, they can be a little bit more on equal footing because they have their own, I guess, social credence and people honor them at their level. I actually had a conversation with a friend of mine recently about this, and she's a very successful lawyer with a very large growing firm on the West Coast. And her husband isn't nearly as financially successful, as she is, and they have a number of children together, and their dynamic is able to work because in his profession,
He is
he's at the
successful.
pinnacle of his
Right,
success.
he is successful. So he perceives himself as being very successful, and it doesn't matter who's making more money. They're a team. And
Absolutely.
that's what you would wish for.
Absolutely. And they have a very happy marriage.
And
So,
there are lots of those kinds of marriages in existence.
absolutely. If you're the breadwinner, you need to protect yourself. Love is great, but so is protecting your own financial security. You need to take care of yourself first before you can take care of anyone else.
And you have to get, I cannot stress prenuptial agreements. I cannot stress. That's when everybody is in love. That's when everybody is willing to give the most, be the most, be the most understanding. And that's the time that you should make sure that all the premarital assets remain premarital assets.
And if you are making more than your partner, DM us or let us know what your experience is, good, bad, or your legal drama. We want to hear about it. And remember, marriage is a contract. Make sure you read the fine print.